David Lynch's film Mulholland Drive is really the second film in what I like to think of as his Los Angeles trilogy, the first film being Lost Highway, this being the middle film, and Inland Empire being the third and last film. And in a way, they kind of correspond to the ancient Christian conception of the cosmos, only set here in Los Angeles, with Lost Highway corresponding to hell and Mulholland Drive to purgatory, and Inland Empire, or at least the ending of that film, corresponding to the beatific light of heaven. Now here the film opens up with a car crash, and the car crash is part of the architecture of celebrity culture. From James Dean to Princess Diana, it is one of the primary archetypal modes for celebrity death, and so it's interesting that Lynch begins his analysis of stardom in LA with a car crash, one of the archetypal modes. And we saw a mysterious woman running away from that car crash. She is the archetypal brunette in this film, and here we see the blonde who is coming to Los Angeles full of hope and dreams and ambition to become a famous movie star. She has come from a small town, and here she is approaching what will become her apartment in Los Angeles. And in a way, I see this film as a retelling of the life of Marilyn Monroe. David Lynch at one point had wanted to make a film about Marilyn Monroe and then decided to do Twin Peaks instead, but it seems as though some of that material has resurfaced into this film. I'll get into more of that a little bit later on in the analysis. But for now, here we have the other mysterious shadow side of the person here, who the woman, she's called Betty at this point in the film, the blonde, finds in this apartment, and very much like in Joseph Conrad's short story, The Secret Sharer, where he finds a naked man on the side of the boat and pulls him up and puts him in his room and keeps him there, as though to indicate that there's a mysterious shared secret identity between the two of them. And indeed, we will find that between the blonde and the brunette in this film, there is a mysterious identity, because the two will turn out to be what I believe to be essentially the same person. Now, my interpretation here of Mulholland Drive is just that. It's just my associations, and it's to be regarded as in no way definitive or final. All true works of art are complex and invite multiple interpretations, and there is no real final word on them. This is only my set of associations. And so here we have the two putting away some money that they have found, which is unexplained and seems to be tied up with the identity of the brunette. And this reinforces the secret identity between them, as though there were a pact or a covenant. And here they're putting it away into the hat box, and they'll get it out later along with a mysterious magical blue box that will lead into another world. And here we have this film director. His name is Adam, and his life has been turned upside down by the mob who is running his film and told him to cast a specific woman named Camilla Rhodes. And he is told to go see this mysterious cowboy character who tells him that he has to cast this woman if he wants to get his life back in order. And here we see a shot of him seeing the Betty character as she comes into just fresh from an audition. And here the two seemingly fall in love at first sight, and the viewer is led to believe that there will be some sort of developing affair between them, but it turns out that no such affair ever takes place. Now here, Betty and her secret sharer, the mysterious woman, who is just Woman X at this point, we don't know anything about her or who she is, go to investigate the apartment of what the mysterious woman believes to may have been her roommate, a woman named Diane Selwyn. And they apparently find her dead here on the bed, and it turns out to be that this is, in fact, Diane, Betty, the blonde, who will later metamorphose into Diane at the film's end. And this is a vision of her after she has committed suicide at the end of the film, which is, we get the other celebrity archetypal death mode, the suicide or overdose dead on the bed, in addition to the car crash. Those are two of the archetypal celebrity death modalities. And here Lynch gives us an image which reinforces the fact that the two here are really one. They are really the same person. And my interpretation of Mulholland Drive is that it is a kind of symbolic retelling of the life of Marilyn Monroe. That is to say, we appear to be watching a film that is about two separate women, but in reality what we're looking at is a split self a la Marilyn Monroe. In Marilyn Monroe's case, we had Norma Jean Baker, the woman that she was, that she started out being, and then the public persona, the electric avatar, Marilyn Monroe, the successful, famous woman that she created electrically through descending into media culture, hyper-reality. That second self is who I believe this brunette to be, because in a few moments we'll see that she becomes the actual movie star, and that she has been unformed sort of personality X all along up to this point, because she represents Diana's stardom, her undeveloped stardom that she will in fact become. And her inner self, the emotional, the real true depth, the Norma Jean self, corresponds to Diane, the Betty Diane character, who is emotionally distraught like Marilyn Monroe and gradually begins to descend into the depths of despair and depression. A little bit like Marilyn Monroe, no matter how successful she got, no matter how successful her public image was, inside she felt rotten, and she felt worse and worse and more rejected by the world and by her lovers, and more and more emotionally dissatisfied until she finally ended up killing herself. So in a sense, Marilyn Monroe really was two personalities. And I think that is more or less what Lynch is trying to convey here, is this sense of what Hollywood does to the self. It essentially, when a person descends into it, and even when they become extremely successful, the descent into electronic culture fragments the self, splinters it, splits it apart, and breaks it into parallel selves, multiple selves that can become very difficult for the celebrity to manage and gain control of. And it can be very disorienting and confusing. And here we see Diana's jealousy. At this point in the film now, she's called Diana. As we've gone through the magic box, like going through the Looking Glass and the Alice stories, we've gone into a parallel hyper-real dimension here, the realm of Hollywood hyper-reality, in which we see that the brunette all along has actually been the famous movie star, and Diane has been the wannabe, the one who went to Hollywood and failed, at least on the literal level of the story. And here she's actually considering going to a hitman and having Camilla assassinated. And in a sense, Marilyn Monroe tried to have her media self-assassinated, to kill it, as it were, when she did the movie Bus Stop, which was a conscious and deliberate effort on her part to deconstruct that initial avatar of the dumb, ditzy blonde that she created and that trapped her, and she felt she could never break free of that self. So in a sense, she did try to have that self killed off. And here we are at the end of the film, at the end of the line here, and we have the man and woman here as personifying, they're like the Furies, personifying Diane's guilt and remorse and conscience and her sense of frustration and all of her negative feelings coming at her, and she pulls out a gun and commits suicide. And so, like Marilyn Monroe, we find her dead on the bed here, the end of the line, even though she has apparently become a success. And here Lynch returns to a final image reiterating the point, I think, that the film is apparently about two people. It's really about one, the public media avatar, and the real three-dimensional suffering self, the outer self that is created by electronic culture and which is two-dimensional and flat and iconic, and the inner self that suffers with that creation.